The day I found out my sister stole my money, my hands started shaking. I was standing in front of the ATM machine outside my bank. The screen showed my balance. $42. I blinked. I checked again. Still $42. That was impossible. Just 2 days before, I had more than $5,000 in that account. I had been saving that money for almost 2 years. My heart started beating fast. I walked away from the ATM and sat on a small bench nearby. My head felt light. I opened my phone and checked the bank app. There it was. Several transfers, all sent to the same person, my sister. Her name was Lisa. I stared at the screen for a long time. My chest felt tight, like someone was pressing a heavy stone on it. Then something strange happened. I slowly smiled. Because Lisa didn't know one important thing. I already knew she would do something like this. And I had a plan. But to understand why I made that plan, you need to understand my family first. I'm Jake. I'm 26 years old. I grew up in a small town with my parents and my younger sister Lisa. People in our town always said our family looked perfect. My dad worked at a car repair shop. My mom worked at a small grocery store. We didn't have a lot of money, but we lived a simple life. And Lisa was always the favorite. When we were kids, I didn't notice it much. But when we got older, it became very clear. If Lisa broke something, my parents would say, "She's young. It's okay." If I made a mistake, my dad would look at me with a serious face. "Jake, you should know better." Lisa was 3 years younger than me, but she acted like the world belonged to her. She was pretty, confident, and very good at getting what she wanted. If she wanted new clothes, she got them. If she wanted a new phone, my parents somehow found the money. But when I asked for something small, the answer was usually the same. "We can't afford it right now." At first, I tried not to care. I focused on school. I got a part-time job at a coffee shop when I was 16. I worked after school and on weekends. I remember coming home one night after work. I was tired but proud. I had just received my first paycheck. Only $120. But it felt like a fortune. I walked into the kitchen. My mom was cooking dinner, and Lisa was sitting at the table scrolling through her phone. "Mom," I said, smiling. "Look, my first paycheck." My mom looked at it and smiled. "That's nice, Jake." Then Lisa leaned over and grabbed the paper. "Wow," she said. "Only $120? She laughed. "I spent more than that on shoes last week." My smile slowly disappeared. My mom didn't say anything. That moment stayed in my mind for years. As we grew older, the difference between us became bigger. Lisa didn't like working. She liked parties, shopping, and posting photos online. When she turned 18, my parents bought her a used car. When I turned 18, my dad said, "If you want a car, you should save for it yourself. It will make you responsible." So I did. I worked more hours at the coffee shop. Sometimes I worked early mornings before class. Sometimes late nights. It was exhausting. But 2 years later, I finally bought my first car. An old blue sedan. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I still remember driving home that day. I parked the car in front of our house and walked inside with a huge smile. Dad, Mom, come outside! They came to the door. Lisa followed them. I pointed proudly at the car. I bought it! My dad nodded. Good job. My mom smiled a little. But Lisa crossed her arms and said, That car looks like it's from the Stone Age. Then she laughed. I felt that familiar sting in my chest again, but I stayed quiet. I had already learned something important. In our family, Lisa was the son. Everyone else just moved around her. A few years later, I moved out. I got a full-time job at a small warehouse in the city. The pay wasn't amazing, but it was stable. For the first time in my life, I felt free. No comparisons. No feeling like I was second place. I rented a small apartment, nothing fancy. Just a bedroom, a small kitchen, and a couch that my friend gave me. But it felt like my own world. And I started saving money. Every month, I put a little into my bank account. $200, sometimes $300. Slowly, my savings grew. For 2 years, I worked hard and spent carefully. My dream was simple. I wanted to open a small coffee shop someday. Working at the coffee shop as a teenager made me love that world. The smell of coffee, the quiet conversations, the warm feeling inside a small cafe. So I saved every dollar I could. My bank account became my hope, my future, my escape. Then one day, Lisa suddenly called me. We didn't talk very often after I moved out. So when I saw her name on my phone, I was surprised. Hey, I said. Her voice sounded sweet. Hi, Jake. I miss you. I almost laughed. Lisa never said things like that. What do you need? I asked. She sighed dramatically. Wow, you think I only call when I need something? Yes, I said. She stayed quiet for a second. Then she laughed. Okay, maybe a little. Of course. She told me she was having financial problems. She said her credit card bills were high. She said she needed help just for a little while. Can you lend me some money? She asked. I leaned back on my couch. How much? There was a short pause. 2,000. I almost choked. Lisa, that's a lot. Come on, Jake, she said softly. You're my brother. I closed my eyes. This was the same sister who laughed at my paycheck. The same sister who mocked my car. But she sounded desperate. I'll pay you back, she said quickly. I promise. I didn't answer right away. Finally, I said something simple. I'll think about it. She sounded happy. Thank you. I knew you were the best brother. But after the call ended, I sat quietly for a long time. Because deep inside, something didn't feel right. Lisa never changed. And that night, for the first time in my life, I started thinking about protecting myself from my own family. I didn't know it yet, but that decision would lead to the day my sister stole my money, and the day my secret plan finally began. After Lisa asked me for $2,000, I couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, I sat on my couch staring at the ceiling. The small lamp in my living room gave a soft yellow light. My apartment was quiet, but my mind was loud. Lisa's voice kept playing in my head. You're my brother! I promise I'll pay you back. I wanted to believe her. But my past experiences with Lisa told me something very different. Lisa didn't like promises. She liked easy solutions. And sometimes, she liked taking shortcuts. The next day, she called again. "Hey, Jake," she said cheerfully. "You thought about it?" I sighed quietly. "A little," I said. "So?" she asked quickly. I walked to my kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. "Lisa, why do you need so much money?" She hesitated. "Just bills." "What kind of bills?" Another pause. "Credit cards," she said. "How many?" "Jake, why are you asking so many questions?" she said with a slightly annoyed voice. "Because $2,000 is not a small amount," I replied calmly. She suddenly changed her tone again, soft, friendly. "Look, I just had a hard few months, that's all. I'll fix everything soon." I stayed silent. Then she said something interesting. "You've been saving money, right?" My hand froze. "How do you know that?" I asked. "Oh, please," she laughed. "Mom told me." "Of course." My mom and I talked sometimes about my dream of opening a small coffee shop. I guess she shared that information with Lisa. Lisa continued talking. "You probably have a lot saved already. 2,000 won't hurt you." Something about that sentence made my stomach feel tight. It didn't sound like a request. It sounded like she already believed the money belonged to her. 3 days later, Lisa showed up at my apartment. Unannounced. I opened the door and saw her standing there with big sunglasses and a bright smile. "Surprise!" she said. "Lisa?" I frowned. "What are you doing here?" "I was nearby," she said casually. That was a lie. My apartment was almost an hour away from our hometown, but she walked inside like she owned the place. "Wow," she said, looking around. "Your apartment is small." "Nice to see you too," I replied dryly. She sat on my couch and crossed her legs. "So, about the money." Straight to the point. I sat in the chair across from her. "I told you I need time to think." She pouted like a child. "Jake, you're being dramatic." $2,000 is dramatic?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. "You have savings. I know it." "How do you know that?" I asked again. She smiled. "Mom said you have more than 5,000. My chest tightened. That information should have been private. Lisa leaned forward. "Just lend it to me. I'll pay you back in a few months." I shook my head slowly. "I'm not sure that's a good idea." Her smile disappeared. "What does that mean?" "It means I worked very hard for that money." "And I didn't?" she snapped. I raised my eyebrows. "You just said you were in debt." She stood up suddenly. "You know what? Forget it." She grabbed her bag. "I thought family helps each other." I stayed calm. Family also respects each other. Her eyes flashed with anger. "You've always been jealous of me." I blinked. "What?" "Mom and Dad love me more, and you hate that," she said coldly. That sentence hit harder than I expected. I stood up too. "That's not the point, Lisa." "Oh, please," she said. "You always act like the victim." Then she walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned around. "You'll regret this." Then she slammed the door. The apartment became quiet again, but inside my chest, a storm was growing. 2 weeks passed. Lisa didn't call. I thought maybe the situation was over. But one evening, my mom called. "Jake," she said gently, "Lisa told me you refused to help her." I closed my eyes. Of course she did. "Mom, it's not that simple." "She's struggling," my mom said. "So am I," I replied quietly. There was a long silence. Then my mom said something that hurt more than I expected. "Lisa has always had a harder life." I almost laughed. Harder life? Lisa had everything growing up, but I didn't argue. I was tired of explaining. A few days later, I visited my parents' house for dinner. Lisa was there. The moment I walked in, I felt the tension in the air. She didn't look at me. During dinner, she barely spoke. But suddenly, she said loudly, "Some people forget what family means." My dad looked confused. "What are you talking about?" Lisa looked directly at me. "Nothing." I sighed. "Lisa," but she stood up dramatically. "I'm going to my room." Then she left the table. My mom looked at me with disappointment. "Jake, you could help your sister." I pushed my plate away. "I help people who respect me." My dad stayed quiet the whole time. That silence said everything. That night, I drove back to my apartment, feeling heavy inside. Maybe I should have helped her. Maybe I was being too cold. But something deep inside my gut told me to be careful. Lisa was angry. And when Lisa was angry, she didn't just complain. She acted. 2 days later, something strange happened. I received a message from my bank. "New device logged into your account." My heart skipped. I quickly opened the app. Everything looked normal. No money missing. But the message bothered me. I changed my password immediately. Still, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. 1 week later, I visited my parents again. Lisa was in the living room using her phone. When I walked in, she quickly turned the screen away. "Hi," I said. "Hi," she replied without looking at me. Something felt off, very off. Later that night, I went to the kitchen to get some water. Lisa's phone was sitting on the table. The screen lit up. A notification appeared. My eyes froze. It was from a banking app. My banking app. My stomach dropped. Lisa quickly grabbed her phone. "Why are you looking at my phone?" she snapped. "I wasn't," I said slowly. But my mind was racing. Why did she have that app? How could she even access it? I went home that night feeling colder than ever. And that was when I made a quiet decision. I would watch carefully. I wouldn't accuse her yet. I wouldn't start a fight. Instead, I would prepare. Because something told me Lisa wasn't finished. And if she tried to take something from me, I wanted to be ready. The morning I checked my bank account, I felt nothing at first. Just normal routine. I was sitting on my bed, still half sleepy, holding my phone in one hand and a cup of water in the other. I opened the banking app. I blinked once. Then again. Something was wrong, very wrong. My balance was almost empty, $42. For a few seconds, my brain refused to understand it. I checked again. I refreshed the page. Still the same number. My heart started beating faster. I sat up straight. No, no, this can't be right, I whispered to myself. I checked the transaction history. And there it was. Multiple transfers, large amounts, all done over the last few days, all sent to Lisa. My hand started shaking. The cup slipped slightly, and water spilled on my bed. I didn't even react. I just stared at the screen. It felt like my whole body went cold. For a long moment, I couldn't move. It was like my mind was trying to protect me by not accepting reality. Then suddenly, everything hit me at once. Lisa didn't just ask for money. She didn't just get angry. She didn't just argue. She took it. From my account. Without permission. From the savings I worked for years to build. I stood up so fast that my chair fell back. "Lisa!" I said out loud. My voice sounded strange. Empty. I grabbed my jacket and keys. My hands were still shaking, but now there was something else. Not just shock. Something colder. Something sharper. I drove straight to my parents' house. I didn't even think properly. My mind was full of anger, confusion, and pain all mixed together. When I arrived, Lisa's car was outside. Of course, I walked inside without knocking. My mom was in the kitchen, my dad was in the living room, and Lisa was sitting on the couch like nothing happened. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, Jake," she said casually. That smile. It made something inside me snap. I walked straight to her. "Did you take my money?" I asked. My voice was low. My mom looked confused. "Jake, what are you talking about?" Lisa's smile disappeared for a second. Then she leaned back. "I don't know what you mean," she said. I pulled out my phone and showed her the bank transactions. "Don't lie!" Silence filled the room. My dad stood up slowly. "Lisa," he said. Lisa rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, relax." My chest burned. "Relax?" I repeated. "That's my money." She shrugged. "You owe me, remember?" I stared at her. "What?" "You didn't help me," she said calmly. "So I helped myself." My mom gasped. "Lisa!" But Lisa didn't even look guilty. She looked annoyed. Like I was the problem. I felt my legs weaken slightly. "You stole from me," I said quietly. She crossed her arms. "It's not stealing. It's family support." That sentence broke something inside me. I stepped back slowly. My whole body felt numb. My savings, my dream, 2 years of hard work. Gone. Just like that. I don't remember leaving the house. I just remember sitting in my car outside, staring at nothing. The world felt far away. My hands were still on the steering wheel, but I wasn't really there. My thoughts were loud. Too loud. How did I not see this coming? Why did I trust her at all? Was I that blind? Then suddenly, something changed. A memory came back. Lisa standing in my apartment weeks ago, smiling too sweetly, asking about my savings, my bank login alerts, her phone with the banking notification. A slow realization started forming. My heart dropped again. She didn't just randomly steal the money, she planned it, and I had been watching without stopping her because I wanted proof. And now I had it. But it was too late for prevention. Now I had to decide what to do next. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch in silence. The room was dark, only the streetlight coming through the window. I kept replaying everything in my head. Every conversation, every warning sign, every ignored feeling. At some point, I whispered, I was never safe with her. And for the first time, I wasn't just sad. I was clear, very clear. Lisa didn't see me as family. She saw me as an opportunity, and I finally understood something important. If I didn't act carefully now, I would lose more than money. I would lose myself. The next morning, I called my bank. My voice was calm, even though my hands still shook slightly. I reported everything. Unauthorized transfers, suspicious access. I gave them every detail. They told me they would investigate. But something inside me already knew. This wasn't just a simple mistake. This was betrayal from someone who knew exactly what she was doing. After the call, I sat quietly. Then I opened my laptop, and I started my own preparation. Because Lisa didn't know one thing. She thought I was just a quiet brother who accepted everything. But she didn't understand what happens when a quiet person finally decides to act. And as I stared at the screen, for the first time since the theft, I didn't feel powerless anymore. I felt ready, and my real plan was about to begin. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I didn't sleep much, but my mind was clear. No confusion anymore, no emotional storm, just focus. Lisa thought she took my money and won, but she didn't understand something important. I had already started building my proof before the money even disappeared. And now, I was ready to use it. I went to the bank in person. The building felt cold and quiet when I walked in. I sat across from the bank manager and explained everything again. This time, I showed them something extra: login alerts, device records, and most importantly, a small pattern I had noticed weeks ago. Lisa had accessed my account before the final transfers. Not once, multiple times. The manager looked serious now. "We will escalate this immediately," he said. I nodded slowly. "Please do." My voice was calm, but inside, I felt something new: control. 2 days later, the bank called me. They confirmed it: unauthorized access, fraudulent activity. And because of the evidence, they were starting a full investigation. My money would be frozen during the process. There was a chance I could recover most of it. But more importantly, they were also involving legal authorities. When I hung up the phone, I just sat there for a long time. Not smiling, not crying, just breathing. Because now it wasn't just family drama anymore. It was real consequences. That evening, Lisa called me. I almost didn't answer, but I did. "What did you do?" she snapped immediately. Her voice was not confident anymore. It was sharp, but shaky. "I didn't do anything," I said calmly. "Yes, you did," she shouted. "The bank is asking me questions." I leaned back in my chair. Maybe you should answer them. Silence. Then her voice changed. Lower. Jake. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I closed my eyes for a moment. That was the first time she didn't sound in control, but it didn't move me like before. Lisa, I said slowly, you had choices. I was desperate, she said quickly. You had my account details, I replied. You chose to take. Another silence. Then she whispered, Please, don't ruin me. That sentence stayed in the air. Heavy. But I didn't answer immediately, because something inside me had already accepted the truth. Lisa didn't fear what she did. She feared getting caught. A few days later, our parents found out everything. My mom called me crying. Jake, please talk to your sister. This is destroying the family. My dad was quieter, but even he sounded tired. She made a mistake, he said. I stood by my window, looking outside. This wasn't a mistake, I said softly. There was silence on the phone. I continued. A mistake is forgetting something. This was a decision. My mom cried more, but I didn't feel angry at her, just distant, because I finally understood something. They had always protected Lisa from consequences, and now they wanted me to do the same. But I couldn't, not anymore. A week later, Lisa showed up at my apartment. This time, she didn't walk in like she owned the place. She stood outside, waiting. When I opened the door, she looked different. Tired, less confident. Can we talk? She asked quietly. I stepped aside and let her in. She sat on the edge of my couch. No phone in her hand, no smile, just silence. I didn't think it would become a big problem, she said. I stayed quiet. I thought you'd just forgive me. I looked at her. Why would I? Her eyes filled with frustration. Because I'm your sister. I nodded slowly. Yes, and you still stole from me. That made her freeze. For the first time, she didn't have a reply. She looked down at her hands. I made a mistake, she said again, softer this time. I shook my head. No, you made a choice. Her voice broke slightly. What do you want from me? I took a breath. I want my money back. I want honesty, and I want accountability. She laughed weakly. I don't have it anymore. I stared at her. Then I said something she didn't expect. I already know. Silence again. Because I did know. The bank investigation had already traced where most of it went. Shopping, trips, online spending. Nothing emergency-related, nothing desperate. Just choices. Lisa stood up slowly. You're really going to do this to me? She asked. I stood up too. I didn't do this, I said. You did. Her eyes filled with tears now, but I didn't look away, because I had learned something painful. If I softened now, I would lose everything again. She walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned one last time. You'll regret losing me, she said quietly. I shook my head. No, I replied. I already lost you before this happened. And then she left. Weeks passed. The investigation continued. The bank recovered part of the money. Lisa had to face legal consequences. Not prison, but serious penalties, repayment orders, and restrictions. It wasn't dramatic revenge. It was real-life consequences. Slow, uncomfortable, unavoidable. My parents were heartbroken, but they slowly stopped asking me to fix it. Because even they understood now. One evening, I sat in my small apartment alone. Same couch, same quiet room. But something inside me had changed. I didn't feel broken anymore. I didn't feel like a victim. I felt stable, like I finally stood on my own ground. I lost money. I lost the version of my sister I thought I had. But I gained something stronger. Clarity, respect for myself, and peace that didn't depend on anyone else. Months later, I reopened my dream. A small coffee shop. Nothing big. Just a warm place with soft lights, simple tables, and the smell of fresh coffee. I stood behind the counter one morning, watching customers come in. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled without pain behind it. Because I finally understood the truth. Family is not just blood. It is respect, trust, and choice. And when those are broken, you don't rebuild everything for someone who refuses to change. You build yourself instead. Moral lesson. Sometimes the hardest betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from people you trust the most. But self-respect is not cruelty. Setting boundaries is not revenge. And walking away from betrayal is not losing family. It is choosing your own life.